Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
We've been expecting you.
Monday, time for our maven of the supernatural, Denise Pridemore. This is the Paranormal Pride. Join to listen and chat live on WBHM-DB.com or Spreaker app. Search WBHM-DB every Monday at 7 p.m. Central for your supernatural paranormal fix. Welcome to the Paranormal Pride, where the show is about the guest and the listener.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore. I hope this Monday night finds everybody well. And hopefully not watching football and listening to us, or watching football and listening to us instead. I think I'm much more fun than the commentators on Monday Night Football. Just my guess. So tonight I'm going to introduce you guys all to somebody I met, one of the very first people I met when we got involved in the paranormal, and her name is Beth Cooper Meyer, and she wrote a book called Ghosts of Kansas. I have the book. I don't know where it is all of a sudden, but I used to take it with me every time we did tours at the Sally House because, you know, these are Kansas books. People wanted to know. So I met Beth at the Belval Winery way back when the Creeps were doing tours there as well, and some other people that are no longer doing tours there. And well before it was a bed and breakfast, and while it was still not as nice as it is now. So welcome, Beth, to the Paranormal Pride. I hope you can tell us all kinds of stuff.
Well, I always figure that if I don't have an answer, I'll make one up.
Well, that's what a lot of us do. No, no. Like I said earlier, you know, I remember when we met and everything, and how not that I was excited to meet you, but at least when I met you, I had already read your book, and I did not know that you were that person until we started talking.
Oh. And
you know, I still remember meeting the Creeps the first time, and it's really funny, and they know it. Adam and Alec know it because, you know, we're together quite often anyway. But you guys we're doing the introductions around the room, and we're sitting at these round tables, and I look over and I see Adam and Alec and Gideon all dressed up. A few days before that, I had found their videos online, and I told Ron, I said, you got to see these guys. They're hilarious. and so he watched some of their things, and it was right about the time on Supernatural that the ghost facers were on. And I told Ron, I said, these guys are hilarious. They remind me of ghost facers. I said, but maybe more serious. And I was laughing. And then you guys put us with them. The very first place we go is to the hospital with Adam, Alec, and Gideon. And so I have to tell them the story of how I found them, and that I said, I thought you guys were just a joke. I thought you were joking around. And he goes, well, we were, but we weren't. And I said, I know. And so I kind of laughed. And, you know, from there, we've been fast friends ever since because I'm extremely honest, and sometimes not in a good way. And so, and I know that. And so, and since then, Alec drew the picture or drew a sketch of something that I had in my house, and it's actually in a book now because Adam is now got his own book. He does all the drawings for Haunted Road Media, as you know.
Yes.
Well, I know that Lee's books are now printed through Haunted Road Media. Lee Ehrlich.
Yes.
I forgot the name of his book, Haunting the Abyss, something like that.
Yes.
And so, like I said, we're all together at least one time a year at the Alton, Illinois Paracon that's held at Mineral Springs Mall Paracon. And so we usually go to that because we're volunteers also at McPike Mansion there in Alton. I know we live in Kansas, and you know about how far that is. So,
yes, it's a long drive from Topeka, Kansas, over to Alton. But I've been to the Paracon a couple of times, and I actually gave a presentation on a topic I was starting to dig into called hoarding and the paranormal, and the relationship between people that hoard items and people with ghosts in their house. And so, yeah, it's been a long time, but I used to go to Alton on a fairly regular basis.
Probably the ones with Troy Taylor, maybe?
Yes, it was the one with Troy Taylor. I've been there a couple of times, yeah.
Yeah, he does. He had a tour at McPike not that long ago. Let's see, when were we? We were there in August, was last, because since we volunteer for McPike Mansion, we're friends with the owner, and we went over there, and she said, yeah, Troy's gonna be here with some tours later on. I don't know if they're gonna be having anything when we have the camp out coming up, which McPike Mansion is having their very last camp out on October 24th this year.
Oh.
And so anybody out there that's wanting to go to this event needs to go to McPikeMansion.com. It's $35 a person. At least that's what I think it was. Since I volunteer, I don't pay, so I don't know. But if you guys have any questions, please let me know, and I will give you all the details because you don't want to miss this last one. George is just getting up there. And if you did any of the Troy Taylor things, I know you've been there.
Yes.
So, I have. Yeah, George is... I think they're just tired at this point. But the mansion looks great. It has all its windows, all the doors. They got the last 2 corbels done for the roof, and the porch is done. It looks great.
Wow.
So if you go back to 2009, what it looked back then to what it looks like now, you'd be amazed.
Yeah.
The whole sun porch is done. That was falling off the house. It's beautiful. But anybody has any questions, please let me know, and I will send you to the right direction. And if you go to the event, you get to meet me and Ron and Coyote Chris and Sandy, who scared the living daylights out of Zach, and Igor the Bat may make an appearance. Can't guarantee that, but yeah, there's a couple bats in the cellar.
That doesn't surprise me.
No, well, one of them landed on Ron's knee a couple years ago when we were there, and they're tiny. They're little tiny fruit bats, so they're so cute. But it's neat to see. So, since you've left Kansas, what have you been doing?
Well, I traveled for a while. Actually, I lived in Costa Rica for a while. Went to Nicaragua, Panama, and interestingly enough, I had a few paranormal experiences while I was down there. I stayed at an Airbnb in Bocas del Toro, Panama, and there was a ghost in the hallway of the Airbnb where I was staying. And so I helped the owner of the Airbnb clear that space out. We did some rituals with sage, did some space clearing, and basically released that ghost back to wherever it needed to go. that was an interesting experience for me because once I got out of the paranormal business, I realized I was really enjoying helping people to clear out their space. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. I do space clearing and decluttering, organizing. I'm also one of the partners now in a vintage market where there's definitely paranormal activity. In fact, we did an investigation there over the weekend, which was pretty interesting. So, yeah, for a while I left Kansas, I traveled, and now I've settled down in Fort Myers, and I love it down here. I am so glad I don't have to go through another Kansas winter.
Oh, yeah, and I got a feeling this winter is going to be bad.
Yeah, well,
they got snow.
Cold.
Well, they got snow west of Denver today.
Oh, my goodness.
Closed down I-70. So there's some rumors on the internet that we might see some horrible weather on the 20th here. But it's like, that's so far away. Don't tell me 8 days from now we're going to have a snowstorm. Don't tell me that. Tell me 3 days before. We don't need everybody to get in a panic and start hoarding toilet paper and bread again. And milk.
That's how we handle hurricanes down here. But it takes usually a week, maybe 2 weeks to. We don't have to rush too much to hoard our toilet paper and bottled water. We have a little bit of time knowing when the hurricane's heading this way.
Yeah, some of these snowstorms and ice storms, we don't sometimes have enough. It just jogs a little way, one way or another, and it's like, okay, well, whatever.
Yeah, I know, and I'm so glad I'm not part of that. And I love it down here. It has been it's an interesting experience because, of course, when I did the ghost tours in Kansas and Missouri, we have a lot of older history, Civil War history, pioneer history, and here in Florida,
Indian history.
Yes.
Lots of Seminole history.
Exactly. Yeah.
And some of it older than, well, I'm from Baltimore, and a lot of our history is from way back in the, late 1400s, early 1500s.
Yes.
And some of that, and down there where you're at, even further back.
Yeah, with the Native American populations, and then the Spanish settlements. And so there's new, what would you call it? New things to learn here about the history in Florida. And I've really enjoyed it. So it's been a wonderful experience to be here.
Is there another book coming out?
The next book, I've actually been working on this one now for about 2 years. I've been collecting the stories, and it is called Hoarding and the Paranormal. And I have discovered, because I am in the antique business, I handle a lot of estates, and I have found people that hoard seem to have similar type issues or problems in their lives that people who have ghosts in their house seem to have. And I made that connection after watching, I used to watch all the ghost hunter shows. This is 10, 15 years ago. And I noticed that watching some of these old shows, you realize, well, the people living with ghosts had, a lot of them had relationship problems, money problems, health problems, and hoarders. They have money problems, relationship problems, health problems. What I put together on that is the fact that it's low vibration energy. It's not happy, joyful energy. It represents the past and stagnation. So I've been putting together about 50 stories of experiences I've had, helping people clean out their houses, plus working with space clearing and removing ghosts from houses.
Well, that sounds like a really good way to live your life. It sounds like you're happy where you're at.
Oh, yeah, I'm very happy. I love it down here. And having the opportunity to kind of help people change their lives is important to me. When I can walk into a home and say, look, if you do these things and work hard at it, then you will see improvement in your own personal situation. It's been really good for me. And so it's very different from what I was doing before, which was the paranormal tourism, telling the stories, talking about ghosts and the investigations. This is more of a hands-on opportunity to help others.
Like I said, it sounds interesting because I've seen those same things happening, that a lot of the people that have paranormal issues have cleanliness issues.
Yes.
And it's not just, their house is a mess. It's their house is a disaster. And that not only that, then they have drinking problems to go along with it, or drug problems, or hallucinations as well. And one of these people that had this issue, I actually sent Coyote Chris to them because it was closer to him, and Chris told me how bad it was. And I was like, I'm not shocked. And he told the guy, he goes, when you get this cleaned up, I'll come back and I'll clear it again. Because there's no way to determine where it was, he goes, it could be hiding anywhere in here. He goes, he goes, I saged the place. He goes, I did the rituals I was supposed to do. And he goes, I don't know if it worked or not. I said, well, I'll tell you it didn't. I said, he called me again. He's like, oh. And it's like, why are you calling me? I'm on the other side of the state of Missouri and you're in Alton, Illinois. It's like, what makes you think I'm going to jump in my car and run out there? This guy had the damnedest timing. He'd be calling me when I was on vacation, someplace like in Indiana. I'm like, still a state away.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And it didn't seem to matter when he called. It always seemed to be at really crappy times. And so it always made me kind of laugh that he just had a knack for finding me. So, and I forgot to tell you, we do have breaks during the show. So we're going to be going to commercial here in a little bit, and I have some questions I want to ask you after we get back from the break, because I think this is going to be a little bit longer answer. You wrote another book as well. And that was that Ghosts of Wichita?
It was Wichita Haunts.
Okay.
And that was on Arcadia. Both of the books can be found at Amazon. Wichita Haunts is through Arcadia Publishing. They do the History Press. And Ghosts of Kansas is through Schiffer Publishing.
Yeah, I knew it was, because I know that the lady that I interviewed a couple weeks ago, Pamela, and I can't remember, Pamela Kinney, she is on the same publishing.
Oh, yes.
And she's a very nice lady. She lives in Virginia. So it's just amazing how many of my people I've interviewed are usually someplace I've been, someplace I know. Where you're at now, I've never been down there. I go to Florida, but usually it's the Panhandle. And same as you, we're looking to leave the state.
Okay.
Kansas is not a retirement-friendly state.
Too cold. My mother still likes it, though.
Well, since we last saw you, let's see, Lauren that was on at the event with us, she's married. And Lacey that was on the second time we came, she now lives in Las Vegas with where her sister lives, my other daughter lives. And you never met our youngest because she was too young to go on the tours at the time. But yeah, Lauren still talks about going to the Belval Winery both times that she went, and it's one of her favorite places to talk about. But at this time, everyone, you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We will be back with Beth Cooper Meyer in just a few minutes, so you guys come on back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Several U.S. presidents are on record talking about the UFO mystery.
Yeah, Presidents Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan both had UFO sightings of their own, but the current presidential campaign might be the first in which UFO disclosure has been championed by a major party candidate.
DIA, CIA, it moves around, is operating a program to train psychic spies to spy and use their powers against Russia. John Ronson writes about this in The Men Who Stare at Goats.
The first known sighting of a ghost took place right after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in the late 1860s during the administration of Ulysses Grant.
Project Paperclip, Clinton releases it all in 1998.
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial.
It's a place where UFO hunters and scientists gather to examine paranormal activity in the region.
Some of the documents, this is bringing Nazi scientists into the United States to work here. So we fought against the Nazis, and it's not, this again is not a revelation. As early as 1947, 1946, we knew some of this, right?
On the paranormal, will we see U.S. President Barack Obama's foreign policy go intergalactic in a quest for gold stolen by aliens? We'll tell you at least how the White House responded to claims the chief executive has been teleporting to Mars. But let's get to today's Capitol account.
UFOs, hauntings, psychic abilities, conspiracy, ESP, cryptozoology. There are many things that remain unexplained in the inexplicable world, and we're talking about them here, looking for answers on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama. The truth is out there.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore. My guest tonight is author Beth Cooper Meyer. And here's the question I had for you. Earlier last week, I got a message from a friend that told me that her friend had a painting in her house, and she felt like it was causing the family problems, or the family felt like it was causing the family problems. So my initial response was, take the painting down, wrap it in a blanket or a sheet, and put it in the closet, and let me know if anything else happened after that. I haven't heard anything, but in the meantime, I told him I would find out what to do with that painting. So in your expertise, what should I tell them to do with the painting? And like I said, they're in Clearwater, so they're not that far from you.
Okay.
Still a couple hours, but
yeah,
I think.
Yeah. On a situation like that, first, is it a family heirloom with do they have an emotional attachment to it?
They do not. It was in the house when they bought the house.
Perfect. Then I would discard it. I would carry it out, put it in the dumpster, and say, goodbye, I'm sending you back to the universe.
Okay.
That's the simple answer. If they do not have an emotional attachment to it, then release it.
That's why I said that my first thing is take it down and wrap it up and put it in the closet until I can tell you more. But
yeah,
my whole thing was just toss it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, everybody has seen, Johnny Zaffis. They've heard about the haunted object museums and things like that. And of course, Zach's thinking, if it's haunted, should I give it to somebody else? No, don't give it to somebody else. Get rid
I
of the
agree.
thing.
You're just handing over you're handing a problem over to somebody else. Just let it go. And of course, then there's an argument. Well, Beth, it might be a priceless oil painting. The odds of that are, if it was priceless, the owners of the home would have taken it with them.
Yeah.
And in this situation, I would say discard it, let it go.
Yeah, I would go with slim to none that it's priceless. Just a good guess, but I agree with you. So I will make sure I get that information to my friends and let them know. Like I said, I just haven't had time to research it with all the stuff that's been going on. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And so you said you guys had an investigation of your antique shop.
Yes. Basically, Lee Ehrlich, who is the investigator, he has an investigation team called Ghost Pros. And so he had some of his team members plus some people who signed up to attend. And we did a paranormal investigation of the store. Now, we have 25,000 square feet. So there's plenty of room to spread people around in different areas, and you don't even realize there's people on the other side of the building. It's that big. And because it is antiques, then we do have objects with attachments to the objects, and there is paranormal activity. I'd say once a month we have to go down and turn off alarms because something has triggered the alarm system. There is activity there, but I guess I would call it transitional. It's not a permanent haunt. It's not a place where this ghost is going to linger forever.
Right.
They are attached to the objects or certain objects in the store.
Do you know which objects are most likely? Well, of all the objects that you guys have, what objects are most likely to be haunted?
Dolls.
Why?
I believe it's because dolls have human features, and also people have, for example, we do have a haunted doll in the store, and obviously it belonged to a child, and there is that, I'll just call it energy attached to it. It's hard to explain, but I think that we leave a residual energy behind on these objects. Or we also have a haunted rocking chair, and the chair will actually move back and forth. I was looking at it, and an intuitive, a friend of mine, said, "Oh, I think that it is a child pushing the chair back and forth." I got to thinking, it was probably his mother's rocker. So we have items like that, and I think it's a residual energy that still lingers on those well-used or well-loved objects.
Do you have people that show up at your store looking to buy haunted objects?
Yes. Yeah, we do. And sometimes they come in joking that they'll say, "Hey, do you have any haunted objects?" I'll say, "Yes, we do. Would you like me to show?" And then all of a sudden they're big-eyed like, "What? I was just kidding." And it's, okay, if you're just kidding, then let's not talk about it anymore.
Right, because they were looking for you to say no. Are you crazy? And
Exactly.
And when you said yes, they were like, "Oh crap, we shouldn't have opened our mouths."
That's right. All of a sudden it gets scary. But then we do have some serious collectors, and they will come in and they'll look around for things. It's not very often that happens, but I would say maybe once every 2 or 3 months, we'll have somebody come in specifically looking for haunted items.
Well, at least you got a niche there.
Yeah, Yeah, it's small, and I can answer their questions too because of my experiences with the paranormal.
Do you, when you have these items in your shop, do you research them, or has somebody told you about the item itself?
No, we have thousands, tens of thousands of items, and there's no way we can do any research like that. It is what it is. You see it, you want it, you come in and you buy it. That's all we know.
We've got a place in Kansas that they say is a haunted location, and it's now an antique shop. Do you think that, and this is the Galena Murder Bordello in Galena, Kansas, on 69.
Yeah.
Down by Joplin. And the question is being a haunted location, same as Mineral Springs, okay? Being a haunted location and then bringing in these antiques, do you think that if the item's not haunted, it could get haunted being there, or that the two amplify each other?
I'm thinking that it would remain separate, because if we're talking there's three types of haunts. There's the residual energy, which is like a tape playing over and over again. There's an active entity. I just forgot what the third one is. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. So I think that the attachments to objects are more of a residual type energy. It's not really interacting with people. I also think, though, that we can have active haunts, and they are trying to connect with us. And so, and the third is those haunts that at no point were ever human in nature. Mm-hmm. And so mostly in an antique store where there are objects, I am going to say that's most likely to be a residual type energy. Although you can have the same thing in a building, but it seems to me buildings have more of the active haunts that are trying to connect with us.
I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that, because we're thinking about driving down towards the Murder Bordello, and I don't know much about it. I just know, hey, it's an antique shop now.
Yeah.
And because I don't research places until after I've been there, because of the fact that I don't want to be told that there's going to be paranormal activity here, or this is what you're getting. I want to see what I find out on my own. I just know, hey, the place may be haunted.
Sure.
I don't know. I know that Braxton Roan, she loves the place. I know that a friend of ours, Brandon Callahan, he wrote a book that includes that. He's a guy who lives here in Kansas City, an author. And it's like, okay, well, I don't know. Because sometimes not everybody gets paranormal activity at every haunted location they go to.
That is correct. Yeah. Sometimes they just don't want to come out and play.
Or maybe to some of them, it's not playing. They're just sick and tired of coming out to play for everybody.
Yeah,
so.
I think I would agree with that. If you have locations that seem to get a lot of tourists or investigators, it loses some, I think it depletes those energies, and eventually they basically fade away. Or what happens, the entity attaches to, let's say it's an investigator, the entity attaches to the investigator, boom, it's gone.
Just following them around.
Yeah, it goes home with the ghost hunter. I've actually seen that happen, and I've got a story. It was at the in Atchison at of course the restaurant name is
it was the River House. Then it became
the River House,
and then it became the pepper mill because we were doing tours at the pepper mill at one time.
Yes. What a wonderful place that was. And that was one of the stories, is the entity went home with a couple who had had dinner there. And they told the ghost, okay, you're coming with us. And they drove the ghost back to the river house. Great story.
Too bad that place has been, the guys that owned it as the pepper mill, they sold it. And one moved to Kansas City and one moved to San Francisco.
Oh.
And so when they sold it to MGP, which is the one that makes alcohol there in town. MGP owns the building across the street. They bought that building. And really, it is the second oldest building in Atchison, based on the research that I did. Because I was actually doing, well, not only did I do that, I also did the trolley tours in Atchison and the Sally House. I did all that kind of crap. So, but when we investigated it the very first time, the night after my ghost story filmed there, and we had more activity than they did. It was weird.
I also think it depends on the weather. It was in Atchison. Our investigation team were there at the railroad depot doing an investigation. They were literally driving to the investigation, and the tornado warnings, they watched a tornado cross the highway in front of them. They get into the investigation location. They basically did it from the shelter or the basement there. And they had more ghost activity than they imagined that they would have. They had no idea what to expect, but it was off the charts.
I will tell you, anytime we had thunder, lightning, you could count on there being activity wherever we were in Atchison. It's just common.
Yeah, I think that applies to most locations. I remember stories after Hurricane Katrina went through New Orleans. In some of the elementary schools, National Guard staff were stationed there as part of the city cleanup, and they had a lot of paranormal experiences. They were interviewing these guys, and these are tough guys, and they were telling about they'd see ghost children and they'd see all sorts of weird stuff. And I do have a theory that it could be the electromagnetic energy of thunderstorms and powerful weather systems could have an impact on paranormal activity. It seems to happen.
When Ghost Adventures actually did their investigation at the Sally House, they actually had thunder, lightning, hail, tornado warnings. Because as we were leaving from my interview, we're driving down the road towards Weston on the Missouri side, and all you can see is lightning and wind and all this stuff. You can see the lightning happening from across the bridge. And as we were going south, as I was looking east, like at the ITAN power plant, you could see the lightning towards that direction. I just told Ron, I go, hopefully they're filming tonight and investigating. I said, because it'll be interesting for them.
Yeah.
But it is a kind of an unusual place. And we did. They never let us investigate the depot. We just always picked up everybody at the depot and took them on their tours. And now the McIntyre Villa people are investigating that all the time now.
Interesting.
So it's one of the top places in the area right now. All these ghost hunting groups are going up there, and it's a really neat building at 13th and Kansas. I mean, it's built on the wrong side of the tracks, wrong side of town, and because it's the only mansion on that side of town. So it's one of those weird things, but it's a beautiful house. We never did any of the tours in there, but we did get a tour when we were filming a movie there in Atchison. It's such a neat place. So if you ever get to come back to Kansas, Now you got something else that you weren't able to investigate before that you are now. There's a whole bunch of places anymore. I mean, you can get into the Vail Mansion now, which, back in the day, they were in complete denial.
Yes, I remember I remember attempting to communicate with the owners. Of course, that's been 10 or 15 years now. But it's interesting. I believe also that as more and more of these paranormal shows, it's made it more common, and people are less hesitant now to open up their businesses and let investigation teams come in.
I'm seeing that as well. I mean, a lot of the places that we go, we're invited in to, hey, you do this? Come on in. Come check this out. And I'm like, okie dokie. If I don't have to pay, I'm happy as pie, because it's always something I can talk about some other time. If they want it on my show, I can tell people about it. Since most of my listeners a lot of my listeners are in the Kansas City area, and they want to hear about the stuff here. So I don't want to ask you any major questions right now, but what actually got you started? Is this going to be a long question or long answer or short answer? That's what I'm going to ask you. What got you involved in the paranormal?
It originally, actually, when I was a little kid growing up in North Topeka, Kansas, I went to Rochester Elementary School, and going to kindergarten there, the first thing we learned about was the albino lady.
Oh, okay.
So I knew about ghosts as a real little kid. And so then the next part, that was a little bit longer. If we need to take a break, I can tell you the rest of the story when we get back from break.
Yeah, because we only got a minute. So, and I don't think it's going to be a short story. But yeah, I found some stories in some of the books about Kansas, about the albino woman. And at this point, if I could find your book, I could tell you if I saw it in your book. But right now I can't remember what I read, but it was the first book I bought that was related to ghosts in the state of Kansas. And except for the Sally House, of course, I had that book. It was a gift. But your book was the first one I ever bought about Kansas. And so that was a big deal to me at that time, because I was wanting to know more about that and Atchison. And that was where I was focused. Okay, we'll just say that I was extremely focused on Atchison. So everyone, you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be back with Beth Cooper Meyer in just a few minutes.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the world wide web of weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is author Beth Cooper Meyer, and we're going to ask her some fun questions now. So back to the question I'd asked you what got you involved in the paranormal, and you told me about school and the albino woman. You were going to go on with some more stuff, but it was too long. So what were you going to go on with?
Well, the next part of the story is I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico during a business trip, and they had a walking tour of Old Town Albuquerque.
Mm-hmm.
So I paid my $10 and I did the walk, and they told ghost and history stories. And I got to thinking to myself, I could do this in Topeka. So we started renting the trolley buses, and we'd load people up on the buses and take them around and tell the history and ghost stories of the different businesses. Topeka is actually a really historic town. There's a lot of pioneer and Civil War history there.
Mm-hmm.
And the way we gathered our stories was simply to go door to door to the businesses and ask them, do you have a ghost? Surprisingly, most of them actually would say, well, yes, we do have a ghost. Then we would either send in the investigation team to see if we would find evidence. We'd interview, and we learned more about each of the locations. So in Topeka, we started out with a downtown Topeka tour, and we added 2 more tours. And at that point, I realized, well, if we have enough ghosts in Topeka for 3 tours, let's expand. So we went into Lawrence and Leavenworth and Atchison and Kansas City, Kansas. We had tours in Emporia and Wichita, Dodge City. Then we started going into Missouri.
Yep. I remember the first tour of St. Joseph, Missouri.
Yes.
That was me and Ron and our kids.
Oh.
In the little van.
Yes. In the little van.
That was us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's, and we started, Lee Summit, St. Joe, Liberty, Lexington, Excelsior Springs. I have to say that was one of my favorites, because then I would stay at the Elms and have kind of a spa weekend.
Oh, yeah. They have more things open up there now. The Hall of Waters is now open for tours, and Paranormal Task Force is doing a lot of those. Let's see, there's a jailhouse that's now Airbnb.
Oh,
that you can
fun.
rent there that is also haunted. So there's all kinds of stuff. It's the streets there in Excelsior Springs that make me wonder. Some of them are kind of like down in Eureka Springs, twisty turny, and cars go too skinny for 2 cars to pass. And
oh yeah, I loved Excelsior Springs, and there were other stories, not just paranormal stories about ghosts, but also UFOs. And we would hear stories about flying saucers that we've seen in that area in Excelsior Springs. And
really?
So one of my own theories, again, is the nature of the landscape and the minerals in the area. And is there something there that would attract UFOs? So again, just so many stories, and it was all so very interesting. We had a good time with it. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. And let's see, we actually won a tour with Ghost Tours of Kansas for the Lawrence tour.
Yes.
And with Lena. Lena was on the bus. Lena Townsend.
Yes.
So, and her and I are pretty good friends at this point, and it was an interesting tour, to say the least, because it's one where they took you into one of the dorms. It was a boys' dorm. One of the older houses on KU's campus.
Yes.
And that one was pretty neat. They took us over to Haskell Indian College, and they were going to let us out, and then they decided, probably not a good idea. And but it's strange though. Just recently, just random things that have occurred. Some of the places that we've been talking about going have to do with Quantrill's Raiders all over the place, whether it's in way out far in Kansas or Smithville, Missouri, or we're planning on going down to Baxter Springs, Kansas this weekend. There's no proof of anything being haunted there, but there was a massacre there. So, there's got to be something. But Quantrill's Raiders were massacred these people that were down there, that was at the fort. And, we live by the Meredicine massacre, so that's not too far. So we got all these things, and all of them have to do with each other. And of course, and then we got the John Brown cabin not that far away too. So we're seeing all these things that we're doing are overlapping with history. So it's interesting when you can, draw a dotted line to each one of these places that are all related to the same, not entities, but people. Because I'm not saying that Quantrill is haunting these places. He's 27 when he died, and he died, I forgot where it was now, but I'm not saying that he's there, but his footprint left these things behind.
Yes. Yes. And I noticed that Topeka and Lawrence and Kansas City, that's very much Civil War history.
Mm-hmm.
It was all about the Civil War. Wichita and Dodge City and Emporia were very much about westward expansion after the war.
Mm-hmm.
And so you are correct. I discovered the same thing as I'm researching Liberty, Missouri. That history of Liberty overlaps Lawrence and Topeka. Mm-hmm. The same people who were hanging out in these communities were also spending time in every other community. And so it was fascinating to dig into some of this. North Topeka, Kansas, and Atchison, Kansas were both pro-slavery.
Mm-hmm. At one point, yep.
Yeah, at one point. And then the war had a huge impact on these areas, and that was fascinating to me. But I also discovered, as we go farther west, say to Manhattan, Kansas, Fort Riley, Dodge City, Fort Scott, all of a sudden, these are the Western frontiersmen, George Custer, William Sherman, oh my goodness, Buffalo Bill.
Oh yeah, we just went through Dodge City last month, and we saw all this history. You got Bloody Bill Anderson after the Civil War went west. You got Wyatt Earp, and you've got all these. And I mean, not only did we go there, we went to Las Vegas, Nevada, or Las Vegas, New Mexico, which all these people from Dodge City went there because of the lawlessness. And it was funny. Our whole trip, even Dennis Weaver, who's an actor now, or it was an actor, he followed us all the way to New Mexico too. I don't know how, but everywhere we went, everything was connected to the first place we stopped, which was Dodge City. So Dodge City was connected to Las Vegas, New Mexico, which was connected to what was that? Gallup, New Mexico. And I didn't look any further than that at the time, because when we stayed in Kingman, only thing I could think of in Kingman was hey, we're almost there. We're almost to the kids. But it was strange.
It's a long haul. That's a long drive from Kansas City.
Well, we went a different way this time, but it was fun doing that because we got to find out. Ron used to drive to Dodge City all the time with a job that he used to have installing shoplifting detection systems. And I'd never been there. I always remember it now. But I don't know how he hit me in the head with the trunk. It was my fault. It was my fault. Actually hit me in the face with it. It was but again, it was my fault. I shoved my head in there while he was doing something. So, things happen. But like I said, I'll always remember it now. Dodge City is a weird town though.
It's very interesting, and we did a lot of research there, and we did have a ghost tour there. There were weird stories, and again, I'm going to throw out, because it is the paranormal, UFO stories. There was a lady who came up to me and she said, I know you're interested in ghosts, but what do you think of UFOs? And I said, well, what's your story? She had never told anybody this, but her and her son were driving from Great Bend to Dodge City on, I believe it's Highway 59, and it was night, and there was a light in front of them in their lane of traffic, and the light didn't move, so they slowed down. The light came around, shined into the passenger side of the car window, and then it took off. And the mom and son were looking at each other, and the son said, Mom, I don't think we should tell anybody about this. So she told me, and I said, that doesn't surprise me. I've heard other UFO stories out on the Great Plains, out west there. And so I don't know what they're doing, but it fits into the realm of the paranormal. We don't know what these things are doing and what's happening. We have no idea.
Right. I'll tell you, I just thought it was a strange city that, we drove in and it seemed like you're high up, and you're looking down on the plain from the main road on the south side.
Yes.
And you're looking down on all this stuff and you can see all of it. And it's strange because you think that you're on flat land, but you're up.
That's right. Yeah.
And we walked around and we went to the Boot Hill Distillery, which used to be the sheriff's office. So we got to get some spirits in the bottle and talk to them about their spirits there. And they were willing to talk about them when we were there, which is always funny. It always seems odd to bring it up, and then suddenly they're telling you stories.
Yeah.
So, but it's a neat place, and someday I'd like to go back when it's not 110, because it was really hot that day when we went.
It does get hot.
So. And we found a really nice Mexican restaurant and that we could eat in. Strange, but who'd have thunk that looking for places to eat in would be a problem? But it's a different kind of town, but easy to walk around.
Yes, it is. I would agree with that. It's also on, if I remember right, the Cimarron Trail or the Chisholm Trail. Actually, it was kind of a hub for quite a few of the trails, including the Oregon Trail, I think.
Santa Fe.
Santa Fe Trail, that's it. Yes.
Yeah. Well, like most people, people listening to the show may not know that the Oregon, California, and the Santa Fe trails all started near Independence, Missouri.
Uh-huh.
And they cross paths all the way through our area, which is strange. You wouldn't think that they would cross paths into Kansas City, Missouri, or into Kansas City, Kansas and stuff, but they do. And I think it's just different people leading the pack went different ways. But, we used to live by Bannister Mall, and they say that part of the Santa Calagon Trail went through there, and there's ruts still from that. Bannister Mall is gone, but the area where these ruts are, it's a historic site, so they're not touching that. But we went through some places when we were going from Dodge City to Las Vegas, New Mexico, and it kept saying the ruts for the Santa Fe Trail or over in this pasture or here. I mean, I kept seeing them. I couldn't play on my phone because there was no service, so I was looking out the windows.
Yeah.
And, so it's really an interesting place. But you know what? We're at the top of the hour for our top of the hour break. So everybody, you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. Enjoy the news if you can, and we'll be back with Beth.
This message comes from NPR sponsor W.W. Norton, publisher of Twilight of the Gods, the final volume of Ian W. Toll's Pacific War trilogy, hailed by Nathaniel Philbrick as an epic masterpiece of military history. Twilight of the Gods, wherever books are sold.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Louise Schiavone. Back on the campaign trail this evening before an energetic crowd of supporters in Sanford, Florida, President Trump celebrated what he considers a medical all-clear after a bout of coronavirus.
I went through it. Now they say I'm immune. I feel so powerful. I'll walk into that audience. I'll walk in there. I'll kiss everyone in that audience.
NPR's Aisha Roscoe has more.
White House physician Sean Conley says that based on Trump's negative test results and other data, the president is no longer contagious. Conley said in a memo that Trump tested negative on consecutive days, though he did not specify which days. Conley had already cleared Trump to begin making public appearances. Trump spoke at a White House event on Saturday and has a string of campaign trips planned for this week. The presidential debate that was scheduled for Thursday was canceled after the independent commission that arranges the debates said it would have to be virtual in light of the coronavirus outbreak at the White House. Trump said he would not participate in a virtual debate. Aisha Roscoe, NPR News.
Vice President Mike Pence took the Trump tickets case to Columbus, Ohio today.
Under President Donald Trump, we're going to have law and order in every city, in every state, for every American of every race and creed and color. So help us God.
And Democratic presidential hopeful Joe Biden also campaigned in Ohio, telling members of the United Auto Workers Union in Toledo that the president had failed to take the virus seriously.
215,000 dead because of COVID. Experts say we're likely to lose another 200,000 people in the next few months unless we take some serious action. And he doesn't know what he's doing.
Biden also rallied supporters in Cincinnati. Later this week, President Trump plans to travel to Pennsylvania, Iowa, North Carolina, and Wisconsin. A new study suggests that by the end of the year, the COVID-19 pandemic will be responsible for the deaths of more than 400,000 Americans. NPR's Joe Palca has more.
The study, led by scientists at Virginia Commonwealth University, considered not only deaths directly attributable to the virus, but also deaths clearly related to the pandemic. For example, people who decided not to go to an emergency room because they were afraid of getting exposed to the virus in a hospital, and who subsequently died of a heart attack. The study, which appears in the medical journal JAMA, also showed these excess deaths leveled off in states that took aggressive measures to control the virus, but continued to surge in states like Florida and Texas that relaxed public health measures early. Joe Palca, NPR News.
On Wall Street at the close, the Dow was up 250 points, the Nasdaq up 296, the S&P gained 57. This is NPR. In Wisconsin, with more than 152,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus, a state judge has upheld a mask mandate issued by Governor Tony Evers. A conservative challenge to the mandate argued that in the course of one crisis, the governor may only issue one emergency declaration. The governor argued the mask order followed the recommendations of public health experts. Considered to be one of the best second basemen to play the game, Hall of Famer Joe Morgan has died at the age of 77. Bill Reinhart has more from member station WVXU in Cincinnati.
Morgan started his big league career in Houston in 1963 and spent 9 years there before he was traded to the Reds. In his first year there, he led the league in runs scored and on-base percentage. He played in 8 All-Star games while in Cincinnati and helped the Big Red Machine win the World Series in 1975 and 76. In his career, he was Most Valuable Player twice and won 5 Golden Gloves, playing for San Francisco, Philadelphia, and Oakland, where he ended his playing career in 1984. He was inducted into baseball's Hall of Fame in 1990. He was a commentator for ESPN for 21 years and returned to Cincinnati as a special advisor in 2010. For NPR News, I'm Bill Reinhart in Cincinnati.
The mother of the late Arizona Senator John McCain has died at the age of 108. Roberta McCain is remembered for her high spirit as she campaigned for her son's presidential bid in 2008. Cindy McCain said of her mother-in-law, quote, "I couldn't have asked for a better role model or friend." I'm Louise Schiavone, NPR News, Washington.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Beth Cooper Meyer. She is an author, and the bad news is that we're going to have to cut her short because she's got something going on that she needs to leave for. So I'm going to ask you these last couple questions, and the first question is from April. She asks, which is more haunted, Florida or Kansas? And she goes, LOL after that, so she knows it's one of those funny questions.
Okay. Well, and it actually I get questions like that from people. The reality is anywhere there's been human activity, you are going to find paranormal activity because that energy lingers. So I would almost argue that because Florida has a way higher population level than Kansas does, hey, maybe we have more paranormal activity down here. But I can tell you, I was born and raised in Kansas, and I love it, but I really love Florida because I don't have to go through those cold winters anymore.
I know. That's why we're going on vacation down to Alabama later on this month, so we can check out some locations down there, see where we want to live when we move.
There's some beautiful country down there. When I drive from Kansas to Florida, I drive the Kansas City, St. Louis, Memphis, Birmingham, and then down through Florida because that's some beautiful country through there. It really is. You'll enjoy that trip.
Oh yeah, we've done it. I can't tell you how many times we looked at houses in Florida last year. I'm going to ask you this other question from Ron. He goes, what places would Beth recommend going to in Topeka?
Oh, actually, now keep in mind, I haven't lived in Topeka now for about 4 years.
Right.
So I'm assuming everything is still there. I would check out what was it? It was the first territorial Constitution Hall in Topeka. That is definitely one of my favorite places, and it's a museum. You can schedule time to go in there. Downtown, I would, let me see. There's a lot of great places downtown. Oh, Ward Mead Park. We used to do a Ghosts and Grapes event there at Ward Mead Park. Wonderful place where there's paranormal activity. So those are two of my favorites. And if you can go in, even if you just walk around a little bit, what's the address? It's like near 37th and Topeka Avenue. There's the Owl's Nest Flea Market is across the street. And it used to be the old Shawnee Country Golf Course building, and now it's a thrift store. And there's some paranormal activity in that building. I can't think of the name right now, but now it's a thrift store. And
I know that there used to be a tour at one of the big graveyards there.
Well, there's Topeka Cemetery used to provide access for ghosts. Actually, there's some strange place. If you like cemeteries, there's that one. And then the other one is off of the corner of Shunga and 32nd Street. There's a small family cemetery there where there was some strange things that would happen there during our tours.
I'm going to ask you one final question. This is going to be about cemeteries.
Okay.
Do you find that a lot of cemeteries are haunted, or just randomly certain cemeteries are haunted?
I think it's pretty random, and actually there's plenty of paranormal enthusiasts who don't think cemeteries are haunted at all. And I'm leaning more in that direction, because most of the time we're not going to haunt our bodies. We're going to haunt the places that actually meant something in our lifetime, such as our home or objects. I've seen people attached to cars. And so cemeteries, you may go out there, you take photos. Yeah, you'll get bugs or orbs, but sometimes you just get too much street noise. It's really hard, certainly, to do an investigation in a cemetery.
Yeah, I want to do one in the cemetery here. We have the very first, the only Native American cemetery in Miami County. It's on private land just down the road from us. And so some of the very first Indian tribes that were relocated to the area, they're buried there.
Wow.
And there's 15 adults and 17 children buried there.
Wow,
so
that's interesting.
Like I said, I've just recently started researching my town where I live, at the request of some of the people who, the librarian. She wants me to check out some of the stuff, because there's so much history here, from when you were talking about pro-slavery and not. In Lewisburg, north of the railroad tracks, which the railroad tracks don't exist anymore. They were they were not for slavery, but the South was.
Yeah.
So it was kind of weird. And whatever they developed north is all now housing. There's none of those businesses still exist. It's really weird how this town's changed from over the last 150 years.
Yeah.
So, but how can people find you if they need to find you?
I would just recommend Facebook. That's probably the best way, and it's under Beth Cooper Meyer, Meyer. And my books are available on Amazon. They can just look for Beth Cooper books.
And that's how I found them. And
Thank you.
So I'm sorry you have to go. I wish we could have stayed longer, but things happen. And so thank you so much for being on. But we're going to continue the show without you. So maybe sometime I can give you a call and we can talk and find out what else is going on.
Yes.
But thank you for the advice on the painting and the advice on the locations. And I'll let you know what we find out in Baxter Springs.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. It's been a while since I've done an interview like this on the paranormal. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Well, don't be surprised if some other people contact you. It happens sometimes.
Oh, yeah. And I'm good with that.
Okay. Well, thank you and have a great night.
Thank you. Bye.
So, everyone, I hope you enjoyed Beth Cooper. She had a prior engagement that she had to take care of. But I don't know what else I'm going to talk about, but we'll talk about some stuff. So this weekend we're planning on going to go down and check out some places in southern Kansas. Like I said, one is Baxter Springs, Kansas. It's actually got a Route 66 museum, but they also had a massacre there at one time. Quantrill's Raiders and the men at the fort there, Fort Blair, got into it, and almost all the people that lived at Fort Blair were killed. Some of the people that went down, that had been heading down there, was heading down from Fort Scott. They ended up having to turn tail and go back. But almost all these people were massacred. They said that there was approximately 30 or so that were killed or injured and left there to die. So it's going to be interesting to see what they have down there. And we have one of the things that I had discovered this. We were looking at we were driving down to Pittsburgh, Kansas, and I was reading some stuff, and I told Ron, I go, this looks like it could be haunted, and I don't find anything paranormal about the location. All the people that were buried, they were buried in a mass grave, and then they were relocated to Fort Scott Cemetery, National Cemetery number 11. But it's also related to another place that we went called Island Mound, the Battle of Island Mound, which had the 1st Kansas colored infantry. And a lot of those people that fought in the Battle of Island Mound actually died in the Battle of the guerrilla battle of Baxter Springs. So it will be interesting to see how that history follows through. Plus, we've been to Fort Scott multiple times, and it's related to Fort Scott. And it's on the military road between Fort Scott and Fort Smith, Arkansas. So there's a lot of activity there. And I didn't know that Route 66 was on this road as well. So basically we go straight down the highway and we'll be there. So, but it sounds, like I said, seems like an interesting place. So, but we're also going to catch up with one of the little girls that used to do tours with us at the Sally House. Her name is Nicole, and she is so excited that we're going to stop by and see her now that she lives in Joplin. So, like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing her, and Ron and I are going to have some alone time again on the road. We seem to do that a lot. So, but we're going to have Kat come on and visit with us too. So if you guys have any questions for me or Kat, you can put them in the chat. So welcome, Kat.
Hi, thanks. How are you?
So, I'm tired.
I know. You work too hard.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, I wish you guys could have been with us on Monday when I did when Ron and I did the library thing. We only had 2 people, but they were very enthusiastic people.
It doesn't matter how many people you have as long as they're having fun, because that's just the reason we do those things, right?
Oh, yeah. We left with so much energy. And of course, we also had the librarian, so I guess there was 3. And the librarian, she actually grew up here in Lewisburg. And she goes, yeah, we heard about all kinds of stuff all the time. Ron asked her about some stuff that he had been told about when he was working at the steel mill. And she didn't know anything about it. But she was really a wealth of information. She got me a couple books. We did not know that in 1912, we also had a murder in town. Wow. that took... So... In June of 1912, we had the murders over in Paola that were related to the Villisca Axe murders. October 4th, 1912, our postmaster was killed, and it was somebody was screwing around on somebody else, kind of thing, and so
it causes a lot of those.
Yeah, it's called something on fire. It's sitting over there, but it's somebody in our town wrote a book about it. And so I'm going to read about that, because it's historic. It's not fiction. So it's factual. So that's going to be fun for me to see the differences in town, where these people were when all this happened. But this was Tongues on Fire is what the name of the book is. So I guarantee it didn't sell a whole lot anywhere but here.
It's because an interesting title, though, right?
Oh, yeah. And you think, this book wasn't written until 1991. So they had talked to some of the people that back in the day. So this person actually knew some of the people that were involved. But it's weird looking at the 150th anniversary book and seeing what our town looked like before half of it burned down. There was a big fire. I don't remember when, but it's weird seeing what it looked like back then. One of our buildings that has been everything. It was a real estate office. It was a coffee shop. It was a chicken place. It was another coffee shop. it had a sign on it yesterday saying open. So I don't know what it is now, but it was a Skelly gas station.
Oh.
So it looks like one of the little cottages. And Ron goes, I always thought it looked like a gas station. Well, we didn't have Skelly where I grew up, so I didn't recognize it as such. So it's kind of neat. And I talked to Ron. I said, maybe I should write about, Ghost of Lewisburg or Miami County, because that's how I found out about the Native American graveyard, just east of here. I didn't know it was there. I knew about three graveyards. They had listed like 7 in the historical guide. So it's just kind of neat to see all that. I haven't even gotten halfway through this. They printed it like a magazine. So it's got a lot of advertising in it. So I think it was just, hey, we're putting together this magazine with history in it, of our town. So, like I said, just interesting reading about the Native Americans that were here, that were citizens. They didn't move with the tribes to Oklahoma. Oh, we got to go to break. So everyone, you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Several U.S. presidents are on record talking about the UFO mystery.
Yeah, Presidents Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan both had UFO sightings of their own, but the current presidential campaign might be the first in which UFO disclosure has been championed by a major party candidate.
DIA, CIA, it moves around, is operating a program to train psychic spies to spy and use their powers against Russia. John Ronson writes about this in The Men Who Stare at Goats.
The first known sighting of a ghost took place right after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in the late 1860s during the administration of Ulysses Grant.
Project Paperclip, Clinton releases it all in 1998.
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial.
It's a place where UFO hunters and scientists gather to examine paranormal activity in the region.
Some of the documents, this is bringing Nazi scientists into the United States to work here. So we fought against the Nazis, and it's not, this again is not a revelation. As early as 1947, 1946, we knew some of this, right?
On the paranormal, will we see U.S. President Barack Obama's foreign policy go intergalactic in a quest for gold stolen by aliens? We'll tell you at least how the White House responded to claims the chief executive has been teleporting to Mars. But let's get to today's Capitol account.
UFOs, hauntings, psychic abilities, conspiracy, ESP, cryptozoology. There are many things that remain unexplained in the inexplicable world, and we're talking about them here, looking for answers on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama. The truth is out there.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my second hour guest tonight is Kat Hobson. So apparently we're following each other tonight. So
it's all good.
Gary, I want to tell you, I saw that picture of the large head. It was not inside your pickup. It was on the other side of your vehicle. it was looking at the vehicle because it didn't know what it was. It was so apparently that's how it felt to me when I looked at the picture. And Ron said that you said it was when we were tree knocking. It kind of looks like a hooded figure. So Gary shared this picture on my Facebook, and it's his truck, and it's at the graveyard that we went camping at last week.
Right.
And it looks like a hooded figure on the driver's side of his car.
A hooded figure, like old school hooded figure, like a wraith, or like
kind of, but I think it looks like I think it just looks like somebody with a lot of hair, leaning over. But people right now, I think, would see it as, because to me, I saw hair. But if you're looking at it and you're not paying medium attention to it. Yeah, she's like death. Hooded death picture. How people perceive death. That may be how other people see it. I saw it as somebody who was kind of hunched over with a lot of hair hanging down, because they would look the same possibly to everybody. But like I said, when I'm looking at it, sometimes what I see isn't what other people see. It's just like you. I the picture's talking to me, telling me something else than what you're seeing. But to me, it looked like he would. I am assuming it's a he, was standing on the side of the truck, not knowing what it is, because most of the people that were buried in that cemetery or died in that area wouldn't have known what vehicles were. So that's how it felt to me. This was like, the cemetery was founded like in the 1830s. And when the cavalry and all that was there would have been pre and post Civil War.
Okay.
So it's cemetery is a strange place. Out in the middle of nowhere. The only people that were out there, if it was during the camp out, would have been me and Ron, Gary and Carl and Emily. And so there was no traffic. No people came down the road the entire time we were there, because I found that to be odd, that not a car came down there. But it's that road's just not, I guess it's one of the roads less traveled.
Apparently.
And which is why we could camp out there and not see anyone. So that's the one thing that we did know, that it wasn't, and I don't remember anybody going and standing next to his truck while we were there. So Gary says it was a big head for sure. And like I said, if they're hunched over and their head's kind of tilted down, it's going to look like a really big head.
Well, sure, yeah.
So, but yeah, there's a history in that area of Native Americans. There's some Native American burial mounds in the area. There was, in the 1830s, I think it was in the 1830s, might have been a little bit later, but there was a Mormon colony, an area where Mormons lived, and they were actually run out of the state by the governor and the militia. Not very good. Yeah, it was called the Hans Mill Massacre.
And so they massacred Mormons?
Yeah, there was a lot of horse stealing, cattle theft, all that going on, and these people were blamed. So, I mean, it's HAUNS Mill Massacre, and if you look it up, you'll find it, and it was in the county where Gary and Carl live. And it's a really interesting massacre site.
That is too bizarre.
A lot of those people ended up in St. Joe, in Atchison, Kansas. I did some research on them, and that's how I found out where the first real cemetery in Atchison was where some of these people died from cholera and some other things, and they buried them in the cemetery there. They created the cemetery there after they moved there. So kind of weird how, like I said, how all these things you can find connections from one location to the next.
Well, I think that actually is probably true as people started to migrate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had those intrepid souls that were able to come over the Smokies, which I would have been fine at the base. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Not really. I would have found a pass. But, you know, those people at that time were just intrepid. They were fearless. They would pack stuff up and move their whole family the equivalent of 2,800 miles.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously. And
we talk about that all the time.
Cool.
You know, when we drive to Vegas, you know,
Mm-hmm.
we're coming across I-70 and we're leaving and we get to Denver. Denver's not bad. Okay. Seems to be pretty easily traversed.
Yes.
But then you think about the people on the
those
wagon
roads
train.
having been built there then.
Right.
Right?
But even with the roads being there, you look at in Golden, you're coming up on the mountains and you're seeing them and you're going, oh crap, now what do we do? You know, because you're 12,000 feet above sea level at this point.
Yes.
And it's snowing in June. And then you get past that one and you go, oh crap, there's more. And
could you imagine doing that with your favorite ox, pulling a wagon with your pregnant wife and children?
And all your glassware.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same when we go south. You know, we get to Wichita and we go south and it's still not bad. We get to New Mexico and you see all these mesas and you're sitting there going, what in the heck did we do? Why did we? I mean, even in Kansas, you go through high desert.
Yes.
But still, it's not that bad until, you know, you get to Texas and you're going, oh, or Oklahoma and Texas and you're going, oh, this isn't horrible. But you get to New Mexico and you're going, I should have stayed back there in Independence, you know, or Kansas City, or even Fort Riley. I mean, like I said, when you leave Kansas City, it's a little hilly until you get to Fort Riley, and then it goes down into a plateau, and it's kind of stays on a little bit of an incline, but you can't tell. So,
did you ever go up on those mesas?
No. Well, we went through some. We were up on some in Utah. So
I think they're so beautiful. And
oh yeah,
to be able to get up there is a whole nother experience.
Oh yeah, when going through Utah, you know, you can go 80 miles an hour,
mm-hmm.
and you're driving along, and their roads, they seem to put on top of everything. I mean, I don't know why, but they try. It's like they put them on top, and I mean, it seems like you're going downhill almost the whole time that you're in Utah, but you're not.
Well, it's because you're so far north, you're going south, right?
Yeah, and but the thing is, I'm not scared of the roads in Utah where I am in Colorado. But, you know, you're looking at this and you're going, what in the world? And we went to this one place called Cove Fort. It's right at the end of I-70. Mm-hmm. And it was a Mormon way station kind of thing. It would send people down to Beaver or up to Salt Lake City. And beautiful. It's a clean place. I'll tell you, one of those places that you're going, why isn't this place open as an Airbnb? It's that nice.
Wow.
And for back in the day, it was probably very beautiful. And you're looking at this and going, wow, they built this place out of all this timber. First of all, where did it come from?
Right.
You know, because you're looking around and there's not a lot of trees, but there was a lot of volcanic rock that they used to build part of this fort, but they had huge timbers. So still, like, okay, whatever. But it was just kind of neat to see. But these people, you know, got along with the Indians well, but still, how in the heck did people get there? Easily. I don't think that they did. I think it was, I don't know. I don't think people today really understand the trials and tribulations of going from Kansas City, Missouri, west.
Well, don't you think that those people, if they were to look at the civilization that we live in now, would be so chagrined and disappointed? Because very few, I know people do, I haven't, but very few people have the drive to actually make that journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great just to see all of it.
Absolutely.
And when I think about it, could I have done it? Probably. The question would have been, would I have back then?
Well, let me ask you this: do you think the generation coming up now could, even if they chose to try?
No, I don't even think that the generation now knows how to use a rotary phone.
Truth.
I don't think that they could understand what
the preparedness for that.
Yeah, what
if there's not an app for that.
Yeah, I mean, how much do we, as a country, rely on the internet? People don't buy cookbooks anymore; they look it up online. Can you do? We know I make apple butter. We know I make jams. Are there people out there younger than me that know how to do this? Would my kids survive? Yeah. Would my kids survive should technology go south?
I think it would be such a hard stretch because they would sit there waiting. They would sit there waiting on Uber Eats to show up, right? Because surely this hasn't happened. But in all fairness, no, they don't know how to use a compass. They don't know how to
read a regular map.
They don't know how to chart with the stars. God forbid you had someone a sextant, because that's complicated. There would be no GPS. There'd be no, help in a hurry when you broke down. You'd have to figure out what to do.
I don't know. I remember those trips with the kids going to my mom's.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a cell phone. I looked at the map. I wrote down my directions and said, "This is the way I'm going." And if I broke down, Ron at least knew which way I went.
Right.
I'll call you when I get to mom's, or if I stay at a hotel or whatever. I don't know how many people can just get in their car and drive 750 miles, no cell phone, no, do they even know how to are there any payphones even around anymore?
Very, very few.
And I work for a company that supposedly has payphones, at least mostly in jails, but that's a whole different story. But yeah, I remember those trips with, 3 kids and no cell phone,
Mm-hmm.
And, nursing a baby along the way, and no, not usually when I was driving, but, well, I did do it once.
That's a crisis situation.
That was, but it is what it is. But I don't think that the kids these days can figure out from point A to point B unless they've been there before.
I would say maybe not even if they have been there before, because if they weren't the ones driving, they paid no attention.
That's right. Their head was down and they were looking at their cell phone.
And yeah, if I drive somewhere, I can find my way back. I never have trouble with that. But I'm also great with a map. David and I have fun planning our trips because, once we get to Vegas or wherever, then, he plays on the weekends and we travel during the week. and and I do events on the weekends, and go back and get him when we go off. But I can't even imagine. In all fairness, my youngest child drove from Birmingham, Alabama to Denver. She took the southern route because she wanted to do the Albuquerque Hot Air Balloon Festival. And she made it fine. And she had already rented an Airbnb. She did all the things. She planned it out, traveling with 2 dogs. And she was 24, I think, at the time, if that.
Well, going straight down 25 is pretty easy to get to Albuquerque, but it's the other stuff that you don't know along the way.
Yeah.
So she did a good job.
Yeah. And mainly traveling alone with 2 dogs. That was worrying from this end.
Oh, yeah. I know when Lacey moved to Vegas, if it wasn't for the fact that she took a friend with her, that he was with her, I wouldn't have felt as good about it. And they stayed at his dad's house one night with her dog, which saved her some money, which I was glad for. But, Albuquerque is a city that, from what I understand, and you can take this from the people I know that live there, I work with a lot of them, they told me not to spend the night there.
She did not.
Yeah, they told me to stay up towards Santa Fe or outside of Albuquerque.
It's terrible that we have places like that are just a given. No, you don't want to be there. I'm going to.
I do want to do that tour, though.
Yeah.
So
well, I would never have thought that I would say, I doubt that I'll ever go back to New York City.
Yeah, I mean, you did hear about one of our favorite Ghostbusters stars, Rick Moranis, got attacked there last week.
Yeah.
I mean, just somebody ran up on him and hurt him. And it's like, why?
Random.
Why? And I mean, he's not the kind of guy that's going to go and mess with people anyway. But still, random people being hurt and shot. And I mean, it's like these people don't even know who they're targeting. They're just targeting. And it's upsetting, to say the least, that a lot of these places are going to lose a lot of tourism dollars because of how their people, maybe not their people, how people are behaving, whether they're citizens or not citizens of that
and being
area.
allowed to behave is the primary thing. It's not that they're behaving this way. They're behaving this way with no repercussions. Nobody's going to do anything. If you get arrested, you just sign a paper and you go home, or you go out and you hurt people again until you get arrested again. That's like a revolving door.
It is,
Idiocy.
and it's sad to see
scary.
places. Like, I can't tell people to go to Baltimore anymore. I can't. I won't go. Why would I tell you? Oh, you got to go check it out. I'm not going to do that. We're at our next break. You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be back with Kat in just a few minutes.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the World Wide Web of Weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and Kat Hobson is my second-hour guest, and we're just yapping away. So if you guys have any questions for us, please feel free to ask. We're more than willing to answer your questions. That's what we do. So, but let's see. I'm making sure. Is there anything on here? The only thing Ron said was that how could anyone make a trip without checking their phones and Facebook every 2 seconds now? So that's the only thing he said. And
well, Gary said, we don't teach them even how to be responsible. And,
no.
But, I think that's true. But I do think that, my kids do things. They know how to do. Asha cooks brilliantly. My daughter-in-law is a wonderful cook. Of course, she went to culinary school, too. Erin can fix anything that rolls, and it's nice. It's just really cool. And my son-in-law is just fantastic, too. He lets Erin do the mechanical work, but he can do just about anything. They all can, if they have to. So
I believe the same about Lacey, Lindsay, and Lauren. Leah, not so sure yet. I think she can figure it out. I really do think she can. But yes. Lacey's had a great career being, restaurant general manager, kitchen manager. She can do anything. The thing is the girl can't cook. But that's, why do you have to cook if you've got everybody? If you're teaching people how to do it based on the recipes for the business, what do you need to know? So she could cook anything that was on Applebee's menu or on the Borders menu.
There you go.
If she had the ingredients, but she hates to cook. Lindsay, on the other hand, she can figure out whatever's going on as long as she can figure. She'll figure it out somehow, some way. She doesn't like to believe it, but she's more me than probably any of my kids. Lauren, we helped her buy a car, and the windshield wipers would not go to the right speed. They would go one speed only, which was not good. And the window on the driver's side wouldn't go down. So she put in a new motor for the windshield wipers, and she put in a new motor for the car window. It was backwards, but it still worked. You just had to know which way to push it. But she's also on the new car that she just bought. She put new brakes on it. She did some other things on it herself. I was amazed.
That's pretty cool.
Here's a kid. Well, you know what? YouTube videos. I mean, yes. Yeah, we're talking about technology, but there's the good side and the bad side. Lauren was using it for good. She was using it to teach herself how to. And because, she doesn't always have access to the right book for that car at the library. I mean, they don't have every book for every car. So I was impressed with her. Her and Becca have figured out how to raise chickens, build a hen house, to whatever it is that they need to do, they will figure it out. Becca kills animals and she cleans them and they eat them. Okay, something I never thought any of my kids would do is touch dead things. Lauren and Becca do. So I
don't think I would. I would go vegan. And, I would trade with people to, here's some vegetables to go with your meat.
Yeah. They had it was funny. They were telling me, we have this chicken that keeps attacking everybody's eggs. Guess what we had for dinner tonight? I was like, well, if it's...
I said there's a plus side.
Yeah. They got beavers in their pond. And so they went out. Well, her dad came over, and Becca and her dad went out and got rid of some of the beavers. Like, okie dokie. And they put it up. So not what I would do, but it reminds me of my grandmother. My grandmother came to visit us one time in Paterson, New Jersey. Okay. We lived on a main road. We lived on Paterson Avenue, so it was a main road. And there was a paper factory building right behind my house. Really, my grandmother's there, and she looks outside, and she sees a groundhog. My grandmother caught that damn thing, cleaned it, and fed it to us for dinner that night. I had no clue what it was.
My heavens.
But she was happy as pie. A groundhog for dinner tonight. And I'm like, luckily I didn't know at the time. But
are groundhogs like prairie dogs? Or are they more like...
They're huge. They're big like beavers.
Okay.
You'll know
I've seen prairie dogs, and I was like, that wouldn't feed very many people.
No, prairie dogs are tiny. These are probably weigh a good 12 pounds.
Okay.
So it was enough to feed my mom, my dad, my two sisters, myself, and apparently Grandma and Grandpa. But maybe my cousin was with her too. But, it's just weird when you think about that in a city. We all know that every city has raccoons and rats and possums, but you don't think of groundhogs being in town. And so, but my grandfather did, my step grandmother did something very similar, but it was with their rabbits. They raised rabbits for food, and they lived in the mountains of Virginia. This is maybe it was West Virginia. It was Beckley. I gave that right.
I've been there actually, believe it or not.
Yeah, they had a trailer
out there one night
on the side of a mountain and had rabbit hutch. And they asked me, my grandma Kitty Cat, she says to me, she goes, Denise, which bunny do you like? And I go, I like that one. Later on that night, I found out that was what we had for dinner.
Oh my God.
Never again did I pick a bunny.
No, I wouldn't pick a bunny.
No. I just like, and I warned my sisters after that, don't ever pick a bunny for Grandma. Don't do it.
We should have just gone on over there to that Lake Shawnee amusement park, because I'll bet it was operating at that time.
I was 9 years old, so it was in 1974.
Yeah, I think it would have been.
So wouldn't have probably been allowed to go off on my own.
Well, no, but you could have begged somebody to take you.
Oh, it wouldn't have worked. I know my mom, but I think that was the year that she actually took us through Greenbrier, but I didn't remember the story until I was an adult.
Really?
At the Greenbrier Ghost, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I know Dave Spinks talks about that Greenbrier Ghost because he's one of the few people that had been allowed to investigate the house where all that happened. But like I said, I did not remember going there until my mom goes, yeah, I took you through there in 1974 and we did this and this and this. And I'm like, well, only thing I remember is that we were all wearing the same denim pants and jackets and turtlenecks. All of us. My mom, her boyfriend, me and my sisters all wore the same thing. Oh, except Judy. Judy had a skirt because she was Judy the cutie. She had to wear skirts. She couldn't wear pants.
That's funny.
And we have pictures of us standing next to a blue Rambler, so we all just kind of blended in. Why did our parents do that crap to us back then?
I don't know, but my grandmother sewed and my mother sewed. And actually both grandmothers and my mom. So I always had those cute little shorts outfits with the shirts that had the H in the back.
Uh-huh.
with the little bar that went across.
Mm-hmm.
And
I had those too.
I loved those. I wish
my mom made them.
Mm-hmm, mine did too. And you could
My
tell
mom-
which person knew me better based on
Mhm.
the fabric used for those things, because my grandmother was always making me bibbed dresses, like, the little collar thing.
Mm-hmm.
And most of my school pictures are in dresses like that.
My mom, until I was 9 years old, I only ever wore dresses or shorts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, or skirts. And we did not have hardly any store-bought clothes until after my dad died.
Really?
Mm-hmm. My dad worked for a textile mill in Paterson, New Jersey.
Okay.
So, needless to say, he got all the seconds or the irregulars. And Mom would make me and Donna matching outfits and Judy something similar, but usually Judy the cutie in a dress. So me and Donna got these little short sets with the little belly shirts.
Yeah.
Back then, and Judy would get some cute little dress or skirt out of it, but it would be enough to where it kept us in clothing for shoot. I think my mom still had material when my grandmother died back in 1989. There was still material in my grandmother's attic.
Wow.
From my dad. So, but yeah, we know all those mills shut down, and that's really what did in a lot of the South and any place where there were mills back in the day. They're all gone. So
we have out near where Frank Lee lives, there's a place that's Avondale Mills, and it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's defunct. But there were so many types of businesses. I think we're going to see that again here now, because, it's getting to where if you're a manufacturer, your people are usually doing pretty okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a trade, like, we hire machinists. They've been working through this whole thing.
Right.
And even when, we panicked because there weren't any orders coming in for a week or two, we still don't know. David still doesn't know what happened with that, but our guys have been working through the whole thing. But if you don't have, it's like all of the entertainment industry. If you worked in a movie theater, if you worked in a restaurant or a bar, if you worked in anything that involved people coming in and commingling, you're out of work.
Mm-hmm.
Or you were for a while. I think you're going to wind up being again, maybe. Because I know England is just, they've got 3 zones and they're shutting down based on behavior, new cases, not behaviors. But also because people want control of themselves. They go do stupid stuff. But, it's just like, if you had a trade, you stood a better chance of actually being able to survive those few months that there was nothing. So, I'm afraid that we're going to see some of that, maybe more.
Well, I'm just hoping that we see more businesses brought back to the U.S. instead of being outsourced everywhere, that we should be more self-sufficient. Bring in some stuff from overseas, but some stuff should always be made here for our consumption.
Well, it's like the antibiotics.
Mm-hmm. That's just wrong. That we had to rely on China, that was almost completely shut down, for antibiotics when we should have been making our own medications here under U.S. standards.
Yes.
If it tells me I shouldn't be eating these beans that are canned in China that they sell at the dollar store, or their toothpaste because it's not the same as what our standards are, then why are we getting it? because I look at the stuff in the dollar store and always wonder, why is this gleam $1 and the same supposedly the same gleam is $2.25 at Walmart.
Right.
But if you look at where it's packaged or manufactured, it's another country.
Yeah.
And it just makes you wonder. I mean, that's me. I know I wonder about a lot of things. I'd probably have a lot more time if I didn't wonder about everything.
Well, we would. But, that's why we do what we do, right?
Yep.
We want answers to the questions that bother us, so. And we find people to talk to that can give them to us.
Yep. Or we go back to technology and we ask the internet.
True.
What was the highest day of the Dow Jones Industrial? That was my question today. Well, Ron's question. I looked it up. Did it ever get above 30? No, it did not. So there you go. That's your question for the day.
Good
but
to know.
it was just like NASDAQ. It was 11.8 something, and the highest it ever was 12,054.
Really?
So we're almost back up to that.
That's amazing.
So I know you and I have a great many interests. We could probably talk about hundreds of things, but I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking with me tonight to finish out the show. So
you're welcome.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Tune in next week when my guest is Shay Moyers. She's making a return visit. She has some very important things that she wants to share with us. And I hopefully you guys will come and listen in on Monday night at 7 p.m. Central, right here on WBHM-DB.com. And we'll talk to you all later. Thank you.
Good night.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.